Welcome to Heartspeed Podcast, episode 59, The Heart of the Great Mother. Oh yes, I am excited to be sharing this with you. So thank you for allowing me to be with you and telling you about my new book, the launch of my new book, which happened yesterday, and what it means to be connected to the heart of the Great Mother. This book originally was written back in 2006 and published in 2008. Can't believe that that's almost 12 years ago, as 2012 and the Galactic Center. Some of you may have read this, but I've redone the book, I've rewritten it, I've added new sections, because at that time, back in 2006, I was fascinated by all the talk about 2012. You may or not know there was any talk about 2012. But all the indigenous people I was visiting, I'd met, were all talking about the birth of a new world on the 21st of December 2012. And I was feeling that one of the teachings that had come out of that was about how the galactic center, how the center of our galaxy was actually the heart of the Great Mother. And that for many indigenous people, they saw the galaxy itself as the place in which we are born and the place we will return to. Now, that's quite understandable if you think that back in ancient times, if you looked out in the sky, because you weren't stuck inside with a TV or a computer, you'd be watching the galaxy. And if you've ever been lucky enough to be able to see it where there's no other lights, it's huge. And let me just tell you, you're only seeing 3% of what actually is possible to see in the galaxy. In other words, it's much bigger than we see. But if you do go out on a clear night and you're able to see the galaxy, and you'll see all these white, what seems like a white mass, which is all the stars of the galaxy, there's an area which is very concentrated in whiteness, and that is seen as the belly of the pregnant mother. And the piece you can't see, but is becoming more and more interesting to scientists, is actually the center, which is known as a black hole. So we know in the center of our galaxy is actually a black hole. And around that time, I became so fascinated by black holes because I didn't really understand them, and I understand that everything is drawn into a black hole. But where there's a black hole, there's also a white hole. And the white hole, you could say we can't see, it gives birth to stars. So you could say the center of the galaxy, the heart of the Great Mother, is the place where both stars are taken in, and you could say destroyed, but also given birth to. And I think between those two is a wormhole. And a wormhole is an interdimensional doorway, passageway. Excited? Okay, that was back in 2008. And I did spend a lot of time meeting a lot of wonderful people before 2012, talking to them about what they thought would happen when we passed through this time, or when we connected to the heart of the Great Mother. And I learned that this new world, which was born in December 2012, had certain features to it. And one of the features of this new world is that it is a world where we have unity through the acceptance of diversity. Hear me, unity through the acceptance of diversity. This isn't unity by everybody being the same. This is our tolerance, our acceptance of others who are different. Now, we can see that in our world anyway, can't we? We're saying, yes, there's a lot of different groups who are asking for tolerance. But I'm also saying we need to be tolerant of those who are different from us. Even if you think you're the minority, there is no such thing as minority. We all need to be accepted for who we are. And this world that is now waiting for us, and that's really what I'm wanting to share with you. The new world was born. It is waiting for us, but it's in its etheric format. And in that etheric format, it is also expressing the element of ether. Now, I don't want you to get too confused there, But just to say, let's say it's in its energetic blueprint, and the format it's taking is of the element of ether. Now, you may have heard of earth, air, fire, water. Ether is a synthesis of all of them, the fifth element, you could say. And why that's important is that this new world that's waiting for us is about synthesis. It's about unity. It's about expansion at the same time. So one of the things that happened around 2012, was the falling of the veils. And the falling of the veils meant that what had kept us from knowing ourselves in our multidimensional awareness of who we are, you could say as divine beings, whatever word you want to use, but what had kept us from that place had now fallen away. Now, some could say that we were being protected. I have to say I've heard about that as well, that we were being protected from knowing who we were. Maybe we were being protected from ourselves. But 2012 until now, those veils falling away has meant that we have access to many different dimensions. That really says we can know ourselves in our wholeness and our unified field. But it's also meant that all those things that we found difficult to accept about ourselves, we could call them our shadow side, the parts of us that are in the shadows, the unconscious, are now coming home to us. Whoopee! And so what's happened is that we've had this tremendous expansion of games, computer games, internet, virtual reality, but also schizophrenia, addiction, drug overdoses. In other words, we were no longer protected from our own shadows, our own demons. You could say our own darkness, but it's also from our own brilliance. We have more people being diagnosed as bipolar because it's almost as like, whoa, look who we are, and then having difficulty living on this earth. So in many ways, we were not prepared for this expansion that happened, this revelation that happened. And that's why I work a lot with helping people to root themselves into Mother Earth. There's a lot of earthing exercises. But the truth of the matter is that Mother Earth is also a living being. And she is also expanding her consciousness to reach her perfected state, her unity consciousness. So my advice is that if you want to survive these times, root with her, because she's moving, she's expanding. And at least if you've got your roots into her, you can expand with her. When you don't have your roots in her, then you are expanding into a world that you might think, wow, look how multidimensional I am. But it's a world where it can become a little crazy making, because it is first and foremost, or what we meet first and foremost, is what we call the astral world. And the astral world is made up of all our emotions, our stories, and sometimes it's quite hard to differentiate between my daily life and my night life, or my daily life and my computer life. What is mine? What is someone else's? I hope you're following me here, because this is so important for us to understand that the change is there for us. The new world is waiting us. But the way through is not to expand into consciousness that may take you away from your true soul's purpose, but to come home to yourself. This is why this podcast is called Heart Speak. Come home to your heart. Come home to your body. Come home to your physicality. Live in the now. Be present. All these books and wise people speaking about the same thing. Come home, come home. Because it's from the core of your being that the expansion is happening, not from the core of your mind. Maybe that's a very important thing for me to say. This isn't your mind expanding. This is your heart expanding, your core expanding. If it's just your mind expanding, you're going to go a little crazy. I got to say that. And there is so much out there at the moment that is drawing your mind out, maybe into exciting things, but also into fear. Everything is expanding. So come home and expand from your heart, expand from your core. How does that sound to you? So writing this book 12 years, 14 years on from the original book has changed me. I understand more. We all understand more. We're in a different place together. And perhaps before I move forward, would you just indulge me while I read the first piece of this book? Because it really sets the scene for where we're going. So let me just read this first few paragraphs. Once again, I find myself kneeling in the warm sand, watching my beloved teacher, whose face is lined and darkened by years of living in the harsh sun of the desert. It is all so familiar, the hot earth, the exquisite colors of the setting sun, and the trust I have in this man, whose age is indeterminate, but who carries with him an air both ancient and eternal. Our stance is normal for nomadic people, one leg poised, ready to straighten and propel the body into flight at a moment's notice, and the other tucked under the body, allowing rest. It reminds me of the phrase, in the world but not of it. At this moment, my attention is focused on a fairly intricate mandala my teacher has been crafting carefully into the sand for a past hour. He looks up, pleased with his efforts, and then without one word, he just takes his hand and swiftly sweeps across the picture until nothing is left except for virginal sand. He smiles. Remember, despite appearances, life is impermanent. Here today, gone tomorrow. All dreams and ideas arise from a primal source, the Great Mother, the ocean of possibilities. It's here from our creations will be developed and eventually returned. Then he turns to me and says, so what image would you like to create of your future now? I say, change can't be that easy. You can't just merely sweep your hand through the old and create something new. He smiles again and says, of course it is. It's always been that way. And as a much loved expression of the Great Mother, we are first and foremost creators and transformers of our reality. Life is impermanent, but everything you create is perfect. Our journey on this earth is to be inspired to create from our hearts, to be inspired with a new idea, a new dream, a new vision. And our purpose on this earth is to be that director of that creation, the producer of that play, and then to be actors in that play. And there we see it, perfectly created, like the full moon. And we are also the audience that goes, yay, celebration time, well done, brilliant. And we're also the critics. Ooh, could have done that better. That was brilliant, but that could be better. And then we are also those that dismantle the story, that break down the set, that allow everything to dissolve until nothing remains. And the only thing we do before total dismantlement of our stories, of our creations, is to take the seeds of wisdom that we've learned from that creation. What did we learn? What did we glean from what we've just achieved? Because that is the gift we give back to the Great Mother. She doesn't want anything else. She doesn't want the story. She doesn't want why it happened, how it happened. She wants to say, how did her consciousness grow by your creation? How have you grown because of your creation? What part of you lit up and went, oh, that's who I am, because of what you did? That's all she's interested in. And when you give those seeds of wisdom to her, that is her gift. That's what your gift is to her. But first you put them in your heart. That, aha, I know more about myself. You say, I take those seeds into my heart. And when you take those seeds into your heart becomes stronger. Your heart becomes brighter. And because your heart is linked to her heart, she becomes brighter. She becomes stronger. She becomes more expansive. You see how this works? She gives birth to your ideas. She gives them to you. You are the nurturer of those dreams, the transformer of those dreams, the manifester of those dreams. But there's always a payback. You have to then give her, through your own heart, what has been achieved, what has been expanded upon because of that manifestation. And that's our purpose here on earth. Our purpose here on earth is to know ourselves, and in the knowing of ourselves is the feeding of ourselves. I see who I am because of my creations. I know who I am, or the I am has been reinforced because of my creations. So this this may be taking you to a huge level where you're saying, whoa! But what I'm wanting you to understand is there is nothing that's happened in your heart life that at some level has not enhanced your knowingness of who you are. Now that is not saying, and you've heard me say this before, that whoopee, you were abused, that must be wonderful. No way am I condoning abuse or hurt. I'm saying is, how did you grow because of that experience? How did you change? What are you doing now in your life because of that experience? And it's when we take responsibility for our lives, and that's not responsibility, though I have to be a responsible person, much more of like, wow, I am a much loved being of the Great Mother. Lucky me, I have created my life, and therefore I'm not a victim of it. When we believe the false, the fake news that we are victims of our life, we become helpless. The quickest way of making someone helpless and their immune system to drop is to make them feel that they're a victim. There is so much news out in the world today that is making us feel, what if this happens? What if I'm out of control of my destiny? I'm trying to get you back in control of your destiny. And this destiny is for you to move from the old paradigm you've been living in, the old world, and to fully inhabit the new world that waits for you. How does that sound? I hope that sounds exciting. Now, what is this old world? Well, you don't please look out at the earth and say, wow, that's an old world. You know, when the indigenous peoples spoke about the end of the world on December 21st, 2012, they weren't talking about the world as in the earth as we see it, the planet. They saw a period of time, 26,000 years, as a world. It was how they described a time. So they said the old world has ended. New world is born. But what they were really saying is a new etheric body, a new blueprint has emerged from the consciousness of the Great Mother, and it will be here for the next 26,000 years. And that it's inherent in us to say, how do we wish to populate this new blueprint? Or more importantly, are we even able to feel its energy and allow it to populate us? How does that sound? It's not about us doing, it's us being filled with something that is way outside our thinking at this moment. Or maybe not so way out. But what if we were to create a world that was one of peace and abundance and prosperity and unity and acceptance, and we were creating that for the next 7 generations? How does that sound? Well, that's what we're doing. The only piece that we have to do is not create the new world based on the wounds and the struggles and the suffering of the old world. If you move house, you have to make a decision. What do I take with me from that old house that isn't going to contaminate the new world or the new house? Do I really want to take this old piece of furniture? Do I really want to do that? Do I really want to take these ancestral pieces that have been passed down from family to family? Do I want to take these clothes that I'm never going to fit into ever again? Do I want to take these love letters that are just going to hurt me again? I want you to imagine that you are clearing house, maybe some of you are, and you're saying, what is not worthy of me and the Great Mother in this new house, in this new world? And the only way we know how to do that isn't to say, well, I'm just going to pack it all up and let it move with me. Well, some of us do that. But if we moved house a couple of years ago, it means going through every cupboard, every box that you've had stored for maybe a long time. We found boxes that had moved in with us 15 years before when we moved into the previous house. We'd never unpacked them. Of course, I said to my husband, we are not going to just move those boxes from one place to the next place. Have you got boxes like that? Things that you just keep moving when you move? I want you to have the courage to look in those boxes, look in your closets. What are the packages, the magazines that maybe you've collected for years? People don't collect magazines so much now, but the books. What is it you just keep moving from one place to another because you should? It's what you've always done. The thing you would never change. This time is for you to have the courage of looking at your creations. What have you created that you've never understood why you created it and you've just moved it along with you? What have you even rejected? Oh, I did this, but oh, I really don't like it, so let go of it. What part of your life have you rejected? Maybe you were an emotional child and you were living in a very chaotic childhood and you went, I can't take that emotional child. That emotional child in me is far too difficult to handle. So maybe you abandoned your own emotional child. Maybe you don't have any emotions now. Maybe you abandoned your anger child. What got abandoned? What parts of you did you create and then abandon? Because only by bringing those gems of wisdom, those pieces of you back into your heart, I accept this as part of me into my heart, will you open your heart and allow your heart to be ready to move into that new world. How's this sounding? So let me come back to what I've put into the book, why I've written the book, just the stages of it. So when this inner teacher in a meditation came to me and wiped the sand clear, I said, wow, you mean change can happen just like that? He said, it's always been able to happen just like that. He said, everybody thinks it's got to take time. It doesn't have to take time. And I hear people say that to me. Oh, it will take time, but I'll get there. Oh, I'm trying. We know trying is lying. No, change is like that. And he said, when the sand is cleaned and everybody is allowed to see that sand and being told you can create anything you want now, he said 40% of people will immediately recreate what has just been swept away. 40% will fall asleep because they have no ability to know what to do when they are offered choice. In other words, they rely on other people telling them what to do. Or they believe that they're already there. I don't need to change. I'm already spiritually evolved. 15% will get confused and 5% will get it. Now, before you are listening to me and saying, well, I'm one of the 5%, that may mean you're already blocked. Where are you telling yourself you're there when you're really not? So where in me is the one that falls asleep? Where in me am I recreating a reality? Where in me am I confused? Where in me have I got it? All I'm saying is you will not be allowed to take those old paradigms, those destructive old paradigms into this new world. Am I saying there's some boss who's telling you, you can't take that? No. There's a lovely saying about how difficult it is for the rich man to pass through the eye of the needle. And in my teachings, the eye of the needle is the Vesica Pisces. It's the place of unity consciousness. So if your bags, the bags you're carrying maybe on your mule or your horse, are so full of old baggage, you won't get through that eye of the needle. The only way isn't just to dump the bags, because that then says, well, nothing that I've done in my life had any purpose. And that's ridiculous. That's not true. You created for a purpose. You created even just to know what you don't want to do anymore. So you've got to go through those bags. You've got to say, why did I, as a highly evolved person, create that event? And even if it was to say, I will never do that again, they were the seeds of wisdom. Only when you take those seeds of wisdom into your heart will your heart get stronger. And why do I keep coming back to the heart? Because the heart, not only is it what we call a Vesica Pisces, it's also called a Taurus, a T-O-R-U-S. It's almost a three-dimensional Vesica Pisces. It's like an onion, excuse me, not an onion ring, a donut ring turning on itself. And that donut ring is eternal. It is self-perpetuating. It doesn't need anything else. And it is a black and white hole with a wormhole in the middle. In other words, your heart is a Taurus. Your heart is an interdimensional doorway. And when you bring enough of you into your heart, you can pass through your heart into the Taurus, or the heart of the earth, the heart of the sun, the heart of the galaxy, and eventually what we might call the heart of the Great Mother. Some call it the central sun of the central sun. In other words, it is through the development of the portal or doorway in your heart that you will be able to have this multidimensional, interdimensional travel and experience. How does that sound? So, as I'm saying, let's get back to not just clearing the sand and saying, oh, I'm moving on, but learning how to look back and say, what is valuable in my life, what is not. I've spoken a lot about Capricorn and how Saturn, Pluto, now Jupiter, are all moving through Capricorn, all saying, what is the most effective use of my energy? Where am I ruling myself by, or ruling my life by rules and roles that are no longer effective? This is the time to have that big bonfire when you, before you move your house, if you're allowed to have bonfires in your house, or in your garden, I should say. This is a time to say, I'm not taking that with me anymore. And it's not other people, it's how we interact with other people. I'm not taking this anymore. I am not allowing myself to be disrespected. I am not allowing myself to be seen as small. I'm not allowing myself to be less than I am. That's what I want to really impart with you today. Now, who is the part that helps the transformation? Is the feminine. So this is the time where the triple goddess, the Virgin, Mother, and Crone are joining us. In simple terms, the Virgin is the one that nurtures the dream, develops the dream. The Mother is the one that nurtures and celebrates the dream in its manifested form. And the Crone is the one that breaks everything down so it can take the seeds with it, give them to the Great Mother, and then we live in the nothingness or the emptiness of the Great Mother's ocean of possibilities. And it's from that ocean of possibilities that the Virgin picks an idea and off it goes again. These are the 3 cycles, we could say, of the moon. Waxing, waning, dark moon. 3 cycles of the feminine. Estrogen phase, progesterone phase, period. 3 seasons, and I'm going to say 3 seasons. Spring, summer, early summer, and then late summer, autumn, and then winter. Everything is cyclical. Everything is a triple goddess. And we need to get on board with the only part of us that can help us to move through from the old world to the new is the feminine within us. The masculine in us wants to keep everything just as it has been. Don't change anything. The feminine says, This is a changing world. We live in cycles. We're not the same. So at this time, I'm going to suggest that this crone that I call her, the winter, the dark goddess, the dark moon days, she's in control. She's saying, what do we need to break down in our lives in order to glean those seeds that we can take into our heart? This isn't a time really for building something up. This is a time for breaking things down. Doesn't mean you shouldn't start new projects, but you're probably just finishing old projects at the same time. All right? Each of the three faces of the Great Mother, or the triple goddess, is actually intuitive. So it's the intuition that helps us to start the new projects. It's the intuition that helps us to nurture and celebrate those. And it's the intuition that knows how to break things down. Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart. Now, my final piece, and I hope you'll be interested enough to maybe purchase the book, but also more importantly, just listen, because I'm going to be teaching more about this, and I really want this to be a major part of your life, especially this next few years. We need you. We need people like you to be stepping forward and away from the old suffering and the pain and the struggles. Move towards love, away from fear, away from shame. Last part is develop your wand, your magical wand. What is your magical wand? It is this energy running up and down your spine. Some people would call it Kundalini energy, but it is a beautiful wand. This is your wand. Why do you need the wand? Well, you have the door, which you're developing in your heart, but you need the wand. The wand knows the abracadabra to go through the door. The wand is like the key, or that which strikes the door and gets it to open. And the more developed your wand, the more you're likely to be able to open that door. And you can see that the door is round and the wand is like a stick. It's male, female. The two need to come together. And when you develop your wand, you're also developing the ability to help your door be opened. And through the book, I write about the 12 astrological signs, because the hero's journey has often been a journey of 12 different stages. This was Hercules' journey. Just as a sideline, Hercules was given those tasks to take by Hera, because Hera was seen as the galactic mother, and she was a little annoyed with Zeus, so she made his son, Hercules, go through these 12 stages. That's where it all comes from. Anyway, the 12 stages are in the astrological signs. Aries starting the journey, and then we move up all the way up to Leo, where the celebration is just like the full moon, and then the breakdown of the hero, where he rediscovers his purpose and he rediscovers these seeds, which before he dies, he gives to the Great Mother and then disappears back into the ocean of possibilities, or the mystery of Pisces. And through the book, I describe these different stages and how you can, through reading the book, go through those different stages yourself. I, as you can hear, am so excited about this, not just because of the book, but because of the teachings. It feels like my life has come together, my world has come together. And I'm like you, we're all developing our own portal in our heart. We're all developing our magician's wand. We can do it together. It doesn't mean the old world is bad. It's just that we can no longer work in a way when this new world is inviting us to join it. Join me, join your heart, move into your heart, and with many, many blessings, I say goodbye for now. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Heart Speak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Remember to check out other episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. And do share with friends, family, and colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of Heart Speak.